Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really deep theological concept. It's called sovereign appointment. This idea comes from a bunch of ancient texts, and, it really tries to tackle some of the biggest questions we have about life. So yeah, let's just jump right in. All right, so let's start with a big one. It's a question pretty much everyone asks at some point, right? Why are we even here? What's the point of it all? What's our purpose? It's this huge, universal question, and the source material we're looking at today, it actually offers a very direct, very specific answer. And here's that answer. The whole concept is called sovereign appointment. Basically, it's the idea that your life, it's not an accident, it's not just random chance. The belief is that a divine power, we're talking about God here, specifically places every single person in a particular role to carry out a special purpose. So from this perspective, yeah, nothing is accidental. Everything has a reason. Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does that actually look like, in the real world? Well, the first place our source texts take us is into the realm of power. We're going to see how people are appointed to be leaders, and this one might surprise you, how they're also appointed to be obstacles. So to illustrate this, the texts bring up these two major historical figures. Both of them had a ton of influence, but and this is really the whole point, they were put in those positions for totally different, even opposite reasons. It's a fascinating contrast. All right, check this out. On the one hand, you've got Saul. He was appointed to be a king, right? His job was to lead and protect his people. The text even says he was filled with a divine spirit that helped him win this huge battle and really cement his place as leader. Pretty straightforward. But then, you look at the other side. You've got Pharaoh. He's what the text calls an appointed obstacle. His purpose wasn't to be a great leader. It was for divine power to be shown through his resistance, through his stubbornness. The whole point was to get a message out to the entire world. And this quote, wow, it just spells it out perfectly for the Pharaoh example. It's from the book of Romans, and it says, I have raised you up for this very purpose. The purpose? So that divine power could be shown through him and that a message could be proclaimed in all the earth. Think about that. It's a pretty radical idea, isn't it? That even the bad guy in the story has a divine appointment. Okay, so we've seen appointments for leadership and even for opposition, but it's not just about getting a role. It's about what you do once you're in that role. And that brings us to our next point, being appointed for action. And let me tell you, this comes with a very, very strong warning about slacking off. So now we're turning to the prophet Jeremiah, and you can feel the shift in tone. It gets really intense here. He gives this incredibly strong warning to anyone who might even think about being lazy or neglecting the job they were given. And here's the quote, "A curse on anyone who is lax in doing the Lord's work." Ooh. There's no room for misinterpretation there, is there? The point is crystal clear. An appointment isn't just some fancy title you get to have. It's a job, and it's a job that demands your full commitment. Now, to be fair, context is everything. Originally, this line was aimed at people whose appointed task was to carry out a divine judgment, a really heavy job. But the source argues that's exactly what makes the principle so powerful. It doesn't matter what the job is, if it's being a king, being an obstacle, or even being an agent of judgment, the demand for diligence is exactly the same across the board. Okay, so we've talked about the external stuff, right? The roles you have, the actions you take. But these texts go even deeper than that. They move from the outside to the inside, to the third area of appointment, your character. And they focus on a quality that most of us probably misunderstand, meekness. Let me ask you, when you hear the word meekness, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably something like weakness, right? Or being a doormat, a pushover. But is that really what these texts are talking about? Let's find out. Nope, not even close. The definition here completely flips that idea on its head. In this context, meekness is actually a kind of strength. It's about having a faith that's so strong you can humbly submit to a higher plan. It's choosing to follow divine guidance instead of just chasing your own ambitions. So it's not about being passive, it's about active, deliberate trust. And check out this quote from Psalms. It shows you the payoff of having that kind of character. He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them his way. So the humble, the meek, they're the ones who get the guidance. They're the ones who are shown the right path. In this way of thinking, meekness is actually the key that unlocks wisdom and direction. All right, so we've looked at being appointed for power, for action, and for character. Now let's kind of zoom out and pull all these pieces together to see the big picture. What's the ultimate purpose of all this? So here's a quick recap. We've seen four main ways this appointment plays out. First, there's leadership. Think of Saul. Then there's purpose, even a difficult or opposing one, like Pharaoh. Third is action, that demand for diligence from Jeremiah. And finally, there's character, that humble trust we saw in Psalms.
So when you boil it all down, the core argument running through all these texts is this: life isn't random. It's not just a bunch of stuff that happens. It's seen as a series of divine appointments, with each and every one designed to play a part in some much bigger, overarching purpose.
And that really leaves us with a pretty heavy question to chew on, doesn't it? If we take this framework seriously, if every role, good or bad, has a purpose, then what does that mean for the choices we make in our own lives, in our own appointed roles? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.